Leo was a man who loved routine. Every morning, he woke at exactly 6:15. He made his coffee, black with 1 sugar. Then he sat by the window and watched the city wake up. He lived on the 5th floor of an old building. From his window, he could see a small bakery across the street. Every day at 7, the baker opened the doors. The smell of fresh bread would float up to Leo's window. It was the best part of his morning. Leo worked from home as a translator. He translated technical manuals from German to English. It was quiet work, perfect for someone who liked silence. His only company was a small cactus on his desk. He called it George. One Tuesday, something unusual happened. Leo was translating a manual for a coffee machine. He looked out the window for his daily break. The bakery was open, but the baker was not there. Instead, a woman with bright red hair stood behind the counter. Leo blinked. This was strange. The baker had been there for 15 years. He never took days off. Leo watched the woman for a few minutes. She moved differently than the baker. She was faster, more energetic. She waved at a customer and laughed. The old baker never laughed. Leo felt a small twist of curiosity in his stomach. The next morning, Leo woke at 6:15. He made his coffee, black with 1 sugar. He sat by the window. He waited for the bakery to open. At 7 o'clock, the doors opened. The old baker was back. He moved slowly as he always did. He did not laugh. Leo felt relieved. The world was normal again. But that afternoon, he found a small, red hair on his windowsill. He lived alone. He never had visitors. Where did the red hair come from? He picked it up and looked at it closely. It was long and bright, just like the woman's hair. He put it in a small box on his desk. He didn't know why. Days passed. Every morning, Leo watched the bakery. The old baker was always there. But Leo started noticing small things. Sometimes the bread smelled different. Once he saw a flash of red in the bakery window. It disappeared quickly. Leo began to question his own eyes. Was he imagining things? He decided to go to the bakery himself. He hadn't been there in years. He didn't like leaving his apartment, but he needed to know. The next morning at 7:15, he went downstairs. He crossed the street. He stood outside the bakery. The smell of fresh bread was strong and wonderful. He took a deep breath and opened the door. A small bell rang above the door. The old baker looked up. "Leo," he said, surprised. "I haven't seen you in years." Leo nodded, feeling awkward. "Yes, it's been a long time," he said. He looked around the bakery. It was small and cozy with wooden shelves. There were loaves of bread and pastries everywhere. But there was no sign of the red-haired woman. "Can I get you something?" the baker asked. Leo bought a simple loaf of bread. He paid and left quickly. He felt silly. There was no woman. It was all in his imagination. But as he walked back to his building, he saw something. In the window of the apartment next to his, a face looked out. It was the woman with the red hair. She was looking right at him. Leo stopped walking. Their eyes met for just a second. Then she disappeared from the window. Leo's heart pounded. She lived in his building. She was his neighbor. He had lived here for 10 years and never noticed her. How was that possible? He went inside and climbed the stairs slowly. When he reached his floor, he looked at the door next to his. It was a plain brown door. He had never paid attention to it before. He stood there for a long moment, listening. He heard nothing. Finally, he went into his own apartment. He put the bread on the table. He looked at George the cactus. "I think I have a neighbor, George," he said. George did not respond. That night, Leo could not sleep. He kept thinking about the woman. Why was she in the bakery? Why did she disappear so quickly? At 3 in the morning, he heard a sound. It was soft, like someone crying. He sat up in bed. The sound came from the wall next to his bedroom. It was his neighbor's apartment. He listened for a few minutes. The crying continued, soft and sad. Leo did not know what to do. He was not good with people. He did not know how to help. He just sat there, listening until the crying stopped. In the morning, Leo made his coffee. He sat by the window. He watched the bakery. The old baker was there as always, but Leo's eyes kept moving to the window next to his. The curtains were closed. For a week, Leo heard the crying every night. It always started around 3 in the morning. It always lasted about an hour. Leo lost sleep. He made mistakes in his translations. He forgot to water George. His perfect routine was falling apart. Finally, he decided he had to do something. He could not just listen anymore. He had to act. One morning, he wrote a short note. It said, "I hear you crying at night. Are you okay?" He folded the note and walked to the brown door. He slipped it underneath. Then he went back to his apartment and waited. He waited all day. No response. That night, the crying was louder. Leo felt terrible. Maybe his note made things worse. Maybe he should not have interfered. He put his pillow over his head, but he could still hear her. The next morning, he found a note under his own door. His hands shook as he picked it up. The handwriting was messy, but clear. It said, "My name is Elena. Thank you for asking. Can we talk?" Leo read the note 3 times. His heart raced. Talk? He did not know how to talk to people. He looked at George. George offered no advice. Leo took a deep breath. He wrote back, "Yes, my apartment. 5 p.m. today." He slipped it under her door. Then he panicked. His apartment was a mess. Well, not a mess, but it was not ready for a visitor. He had 1 chair, 1 cactus, 1 coffee cup. He needed to prepare. At 5 o'clock, there was a soft knock on his door. Leo opened it. Elena stood there. Her red hair was even brighter up close. Her eyes were tired and a little red. She held a small box of cookies in her hand. "Hello, Leo," she said softly. "Thank you for inviting me." Leo stepped aside. "Please, come in." She walked in and looked around. She saw the single chair, the small desk, George the cactus. "It's very quiet," she said with a small smile. Leo nodded. "Yes, I like quiet." They sat down. Leo in the chair, Elena on the floor. There was no other place to sit. Elena did not seem to mind. "I'm sorry for the crying," Elena began. "I didn't know anyone could hear me." "The walls are thin," Leo said. Elena nodded. "I moved in a month ago. I didn't notice," Leo admitted. "I know," Elena said. "You never look at anything but the bakery." Leo was surprised. "You watch me?" Elena smiled sadly. "Sometimes. I watch everyone from my window. It's my only company." Leo understood that feeling. "Why were you in the bakery last week?" he asked. Elena's eyes widened. "You saw me there?" "Yes, for 1 day. Then you were gone." Elena looked down at her hands. That was a mistake, she whispered. I shouldn't have gone. Why not? Leo asked gently. Elena was quiet for a long time. Leo waited. He was good at waiting. Finally, she spoke. That bakery, it was my grandfather's. Leo's eyes widened. The baker is your grandfather? Elena nodded, tears forming in her eyes. He doesn't know I'm here. He doesn't know I exist. Leo was confused. How is that possible? Elena took a shaky breath. My mother was his daughter. They had a fight 30 years ago. She left and never came back. She changed her name. She died last month. Before she died, she told me everything. She told me about him, about the bakery. I moved here to be near him, but I'm too afraid to talk to him. Leo listened without speaking. He understood fear. He understood being alone. The day you saw me, Elena continued, I almost went in. I stood at the door for an hour. Then he saw me through the window. He looked at me, and I ran away. I ran back here and I've been crying ever since. Leo sat quietly, processing her story. He thought about the old baker, alone in his shop every day. He thought about the man who never laughed. He probably lost his daughter, Leo said slowly. He probably thinks about her every day. Elena looked up, surprised by his words. You think so? Leo nodded. I watch him every morning. He moves like a sad man. Maybe he's waiting for someone to come back. Elena wiped her eyes. I want to talk to him. I really do. But every time I try, I freeze. I can't breathe. Leo understood that feeling too. He felt that way about people. What if? Leo started, then stopped. What if what? Elena asked. Leo took a deep breath. This was hard for him. What if I went with you? He suggested. I could stand next to you. You wouldn't be alone. Elena stared at him. You would do that? For a stranger? Leo shrugged. You're my neighbor. That's not a stranger. Elena smiled, a real smile this time. Okay, she said. Tomorrow morning, we'll go together. After Elena left, Leo felt strange. He had a plan. He had a purpose. He looked at George. We're going out tomorrow, George, he said. George sat silently on the desk. Leo could not sleep that night, but for once it was not because of crying. It was because he was nervous. At 6:15 he made his coffee. He drank it standing up. He did not sit by the window. At 6:45 there was a knock on his door. Elena was there, looking pale but determined. Ready? She asked. Leo nodded. He grabbed his keys. They walked down the stairs together in silence. They crossed the street. They stood in front of the bakery. The smell of fresh bread surrounded them. Through the window they could see the old baker arranging loaves. Elena grabbed Leo's arm. Hard. I can't, she whispered. I can't do it. Leo felt her fear. It was like a physical thing. He did not know what to say, so he just stood there, letting her hold his arm. They stood like that for 5 minutes. People walked past them going into the bakery. They came out with bread and smiles. Finally, Leo spoke. We don't have to go in, he said quietly. We can just stand here. That's enough for today. Elena looked at him, surprised. Really? Leo nodded. Really? One step at a time. They stood for another 5 minutes. Then they walked back to their building. Elena let go of his arm. "Thank you, Leo," she said. "That helped more than you know." The next day they stood outside the bakery again. And the next day, every morning at 7, Leo and Elena stood outside the bakery. They did not go in. They just stood there. Leo started to notice things. He noticed the way the morning light hit the windows. He noticed the different people who came to buy bread. He noticed that the baker sometimes looked out at them. On the 5th day, something changed. The baker came outside. He stood in front of them, holding a small bag. He looked at Elena with old, tired eyes. "You look like someone I used to know," he said softly. Elena could not speak. Tears streamed down her face. Leo gently squeezed her hand. The baker continued, "My daughter had hair just like yours. Red, like fire. She left a long time ago. I think about her every day." Elena found her voice. "She was my mother," she whispered. "She passed away last month." The baker's face crumbled. He dropped the bag. Fresh rolls rolled onto the sidewalk. He reached out and touched Elena's face gently. "You're my granddaughter," he said, his voice breaking. Elena nodded, unable to speak. Then the old baker did something Leo had never seen. He cried. He pulled Elena into a hug, right there on the street. People walked around them, smiling. Leo stepped back, giving them space. He felt like he was witnessing something important. After a long moment, the baker pulled back. He looked at Elena, then at Leo. "You," he said to Leo, "you stand here every morning with her. Are you her husband?" Leo shook his head quickly. "No, no. I'm just her neighbor." The baker smiled. "A good neighbor. Please, both of you, come inside." They followed him into the warm, sweet-smelling bakery. He led them to a small table in the back. He brought them fresh rolls and hot chocolate. For the first time, Leo saw the baker smile. Changed his whole face. They talked for hours. Elena told her grandfather about her mother's life. She showed him photos on her phone. The baker listened, cried, and laughed. Real laughter filled the bakery. Leo sat quietly, sipping his chocolate. He felt like an outsider, but a welcome one. He watched the family reunion and felt something warm in his chest. It was a feeling he did not recognize. Felt like belonging. After that day, everything changed. Leo's routine was broken forever. Every morning, he still made his coffee at 6:15. But now, he did not drink it alone. He took it downstairs, crossed the street, and went to the bakery. He sat at the small table in the back. He talked to Elena. He talked to the baker. He even talked to the customers sometimes. It was strange, but it was also wonderful. One afternoon, Elena knocked on his door. She held a small pot with a new plant. "For George," she said, smiling. "So he has a friend." It was a small, green succulent. Leo placed it next to George on his desk. "What's its name?" he asked. "That's for you to decide," Elena said. Leo thought for a moment. "I'll call her Elara," he said. "After a star."
Elena Laugid.
"You named a plant after a star? Why not?" Leo said, and he laughed too. It was the first time Leo had laughed in years. Felt good. Weeks turned into months. Leo became a regular at the bakery. He helped clean tables when it was busy. He even learned to make bread. The baker taught him. "You have good hands for bread," the baker said. Leo felt proud. One evening, as they were closing the bakery, Elena pulled Leo aside. "I want to thank you," she said seriously. "For what?" Leo asked. "For listening," she said. "That first night when I was crying. You heard me. You reached out. You didn't have to, but you did. And it changed my life." Leo felt embarrassed. "I just wrote a note," he said. "Sometimes a note is enough," Elena said. "Sometimes it's everything." She hugged him. It was quick but warm. Leo did not know what to do with his arms. He let them hang at his sides. But inside he felt happy. Months passed. A year passed. Leo still lived in his small apartment. He still translated technical manuals. But now his life was full. He had friends. Elena was his best friend. The baker was like a grandfather to him now. The customers knew his name. They asked about his work. They told him their stories. Leo listened. He had always been good at listening. But now he also talked. He shared his own stories. His quiet life had many stories. Stories about the people he watched from his window. Stories about the books he translated. Stories about George and Alara, his two plants. One day the baker became sick. It happened suddenly. He was fine one week and in the hospital the next. Elena was devastated. She ran the bakery alone, but she was tired and sad. Leo helped her. Every day after his translations, he went to the bakery. He cleaned. He served customers. He made bread. One night, after closing, Elena broke down. "I can't lose him too," she cried. "I just found him." Leo sat with her. He did not speak. He just listened. He remembered the nights he heard her crying through the wall. He remembered how helpless he felt. Now he felt helpless again. But this time he knew that just being there was enough. The baker recovered slowly. He came back to the bakery, but he could not work as much. He sat at the small table in the back. He watched Elena and Leo run his bakery. He smiled. He was proud. One afternoon he called them both to his table. "I have something to tell you," he said. They sat down, worried. "This bakery has been in our family for 50 years, he began. "My father started it. Then I took over. Now," he looked at Elena and Leo, "now I want you two to run it together."
Elena gasped.
"Grandpa, we can't take your bakery." "You're not taking it," he said firmly. "You're keeping it alive." He looked at Leo. "And you have baker's hands." Leo was shocked. "But I'm just a translator." "You were a translator," the baker said with a smile. "Now you're a baker too. I've seen you." Leo looked at Elena. She was smiling through tears. "What do you say, partner?" she asked. Leo thought about his quiet apartment. He thought about George and Alara. He thought about the smell of fresh bread every morning. He thought about Elena's laugh. "Okay," he said. "Let's do it." And so, Leo's life changed completely. He still woke at 6:15. But now he went straight to the bakery. He baked bread with Elena. He greeted customers by name. He listened to their stories while they bought their morning rolls. And at night, he went home to his apartment. George and Alara sat on his desk, green and healthy. Sometimes Elena would come over. They would drink tea and talk about their day. They would sit by the window and look at the city lights. One night, Elena pointed at the bakery below. "Look," she said. It's glowing. The lights from the bakery windows cast a warm glow onto the street. It looked magical. That's our bakery, Leo said softly. Our bakery, Elena repeated. Who would have thought? Leo thought about the red hair on his windowsill. He thought about the note he had written. He thought about how one small action had changed everything. Elena, he said. Yes. Thank you for crying, he said.
Elena laughed.
That's a strange thing to thank someone for. If you hadn't cried, I wouldn't have written the note, Leo explained. And if I hadn't written the note, I wouldn't be here. With you. I wouldn't have a bakery. Or a friend. Elena smiled and leaned her head on his shoulder. Sometimes the saddest sounds lead to the happiest places, she said. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city below. The bakery glowed like a beacon in the night. And Leo, who once loved only silence, now loved the sound of a friend breathing next to him. Years later, the bakery had a new sign. It said, Elena and Leo's Bread. Underneath, in smaller letters, Family Bakery since 1970. The old baker had passed away peacefully 2 years before, but his spirit lived on in every loaf of bread. Leo and Elena worked side by side every day. People in the neighborhood said they made the best bread in the city. But more than that, they said Leo and Elena made the warmest place in the city. People came not just for the bread, but for the feeling of being welcome. One morning, a young man came in looking lost. He ordered a coffee and sat in the corner. He looked sad, like he had been crying. Leo noticed him. He walked over with a fresh roll. On the house, Leo said, placing it on the table. The young man looked up, surprised. Thanks, he mumbled. Leo sat down across from him. You know, Leo said quietly, I used to live in that building across the street. I used to watch this bakery every morning. I never came in. The young man listened. Then one day, I heard someone crying next door, Leo continued, and it changed my life. The young man's eyes widened slightly. What did you do? He asked. Leo smiled. I wrote her a note. Just a small note. I asked if she was okay. And? The young man prompted. And she became my best friend, Leo said, gesturing to Elena behind the counter. And we own this bakery together. The young man looked at Elena, who waved at him. He looked back at Leo. So, you're saying I should write a note? Leo shrugged. I'm saying that sometimes the smallest actions change everything, and that no one should cry alone. The young man was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. Thank you, he said. I think I understand. He left the bakery, walking with a little more purpose. Leo watched him go. Elena came over and put her hand on his shoulder. You're a good man, Leo, she said. Leo smiled. I had a good teacher, he said. You taught me that listening is a kind of love. Elena squeezed his shoulder. And you taught me that love is worth the risk, she replied. The bell above the door rang. A new customer came in. Welcome, Leo and Elena said together, and the bakery filled with warmth and bread and the sound of people connecting. In a world full of noise, they had found the simple power of a listening ear. And that, perhaps, is the most important story of all. The story of two lonely people who learned to listen, and in listening found a home.
Goodbye.